Shaylin had long since forgotten the sound of wind that was not her own breath rasping through age-worn lungs. She sat at the heart of her tower, though tower was only the lie the world told itself. The structure clawed 3 stories into the sky, all jagged angles and unnatural seams, as though stone had once tried to imitate something it did not understand. Time had softened none of it. Moss refused to cling. Vines recoiled, birds did not nest upon it. To those who passed at a distance, it was merely an ugly relic of a dead age, a monument to some forgotten lord with poor taste. To Shaylin, it was simply home. She did not know it had once flown, did not know that the halls she stalked had once carried voices across the void between stars, that the cold metal beneath centuries of grime had once hummed with power enough to defy the heavens. Whatever knowledge had lived here before her had long since rotted away, leaving only corridors, chambers, and a throne she had claimed as her own. And bones. So many bones. Shaylin moved through the halls with the slow, deliberate grace of something that had outlived purpose. Her upper half, withered, pale, and etched with the deep lines of an impossible age, swayed gently with each step. Below the waist, her body blossomed into a grotesque fusion of flesh and chitin, a massive spider's abdomen, black as pitch and veined with dull crimson, from which sprouted long, barbed legs that clicked softly against the metal floor. Each step echoed, each echo remembered. The walls were lined with her trophies, not haphazardly strewn, not discarded like refuse, but arranged, honored, every skull polished, every rib cage reconstructed where possible, each set of remains given space enough to be seen. She paused before one, a tall skeleton, broad-shouldered even in death, its skull split cleanly from crown to jaw. Shaylin reached out, her fingers trembling not from fear, but from the strain of centuries pressing against brittle bone. She brushed the crack with something almost like fondness. "You nearly took my head," she whispered, her voice dry as old parchment. "I remember that." Her lips curled, not quite a smile. "Heavy blade, clumsy feet, but you learned before the end." She lingered there longer than she intended, caught in the pull of memory, the clash of steel, the roar of defiance, the way he had refused to kneel even as she tore the strength from his body. A good death, a worthy addition. She moved on. Further down the corridor, past dozens, hundreds of such stories rendered in bone, hung the mirror. It was an ugly thing, oval, tarnished, its surface never quite reflecting truth even in stillness. Dark veins pulsed faintly beneath its glass, like something alive pressed thin and flat. It had not stirred in decades. Once it had been her herald. When a warrior of note came within the reach of her domain, the mirror would awaken, its surface rippling, then clearing to reveal the face of one worthy of the hunt. Not just strength, not just magic, but something rarer, something that called to her ancient hunger. Those were the ones she pursued, not as a monster, but as something far more dangerous, human. She would whisper the old words, words that scraped against her throat now even in memory, and her body would betray its true form. The chitin folding, the limbs retracting, the grotesque becoming something deceptively fragile. A woman, young, beautiful, harmless. Men were easy, heroes were not. But even heroes had weaknesses: pride, curiosity, desire, compassion sometimes, though she found that the easiest to exploit. She would walk among them, speak with them, learn the rhythm of their breath, the cadence of their thoughts. And when the moment came, the hunt would end. Their flesh fed her, their essence sustained her, their bones came home, always home. But the mirror had gone silent. Years passed, then decades. No faces, no summons, no worthy prey. Shaylin had adapted, as all long-lived things must. Bandits, mercenaries, wandering fools who mistook her tower for abandoned ruin. They fed her body, barely, sustained the slow rot of time gnawing at her from within. But they were not worthy. Their bones did not earn the wall. Those she discarded. And so the halls, once filled with the memory of greatness, began to feel hollow. Now age had taken its due. She felt it in the stiffness of her limbs, in the ache that never left her joints, in the way her magic came slower, heavier, as though dragged through mud. A millennium of hunting, 1,000 years of taking only the strongest the world could offer. And still, in the end, she would fade, not in battle, but in silence. That thought angered her more than death itself. She dragged herself toward the heart of the structure, the chamber she had claimed long before memory failed her. The room was vast, circular, filled with relics she did not understand, broken panels, dead consoles, a great throne-like seat of cold metal that she had adorned with furs and bones until it resembled something of her own making. She lowered herself into it with effort, closed her eyes, and waited. If death came now, it would find her as she had lived, alone, surrounded by the echoes of those she had consumed. Her breathing slowed, time stretched, and then light, a flicker, a pulse. Her eyes snapped open, the mirror. For a moment she did not move. The thought came unbidden, a dream, a final kindness before the end. But the light persisted, weak at first, then stronger. The dark veins beneath the glass began to writhe, feeding something into its surface. Shaylin rose, slowly, carefully, as though sudden movement might shatter the illusion. She approached the mirror, each step heavier than the last, until she stood before it and saw him, bronze skin, kissed by sun and hardship, long black hair bound loosely behind him, shifting with the wind as he rode. His posture was effortless, balanced, as though horse and rider were a single creature moving through the mountain pass. Power radiated from him, not crude, not loud, contained. His eyes, God's, his eyes, held weight. Not the hollow bravado of young warriors, but something deeper, something earned, lifetimes of experience worn behind a face still untouched by true age. Shaylin felt something she had not known in centuries. Her heart stuttered, once, then again. Ah! The sound escaped her before she could stop it, thin and brittle. So, you do remember me. She watched him in silence, drinking in every detail, the way he dismounted to drink from a stream, the ease with which he moved through unfamiliar terrain, the absence of fear. Yes, yes, this one would do, more than do. This one might be worthy of ending her. The thought sent a shiver through her ancient frame. She turned away from the mirror, mind already racing. Direction, distance, time, all calculated with the precision of long practice. Then came the harder part, the words. She opened her mouth and hesitated. It had been so long. The incantation felt foreign, like a language she had once known but now struggled to recall. Her tongue fumbled, her breath hitched. For a moment, fear crept in. What if she could no longer do it? What if age had taken even this from her? Her expression hardened. "No," she hissed. "Not yet." She drew in a slow, steady breath and spoke. The words came haltingly at first, then stronger, carried on the remnants of power that still lived within her. The air around her thickened, warped. Her body responded with immediate, violent obedience. She screamed, not in fear, but in pain. Her lower half convulsed. The massive abdomen shrank, folding inward as though crushed by an invisible force. Chitin cracked, legs snapped and reformed, drawing up into her body with wet, grinding sounds. Bone shifted, flesh collapsed. The monstrous became smaller, smaller, smaller still. She fell forward, striking the cold floor as the transformation completed. For a long moment, she did not move. Then, slowly, she pushed herself up. Her hands, human hands, trembled before her eyes. She looked down. An old woman stared back from her own body, frail, naked, skin like parchment stretched over brittle bone. 80 years at least, perhaps more. Pathetic, but necessary. She steadied herself, leaning against a nearby wall as she gathered what strength remained. "One more," she muttered. Her voice was clearer now, stronger. The second incantation came easier, familiar in its purpose if not its form. Illusion layered over reality, decay hidden beneath beauty. Magic coiled around her, sinking into her flesh. Her spine straightened, wrinkles smoothed, hair darkened, spilling over her shoulders like ink. Skin tightened, youth returning in a cruel mockery of life. When it ended, she stood tall, a woman of 20, radiant, lethal, a lie made perfect. Shaylin exhaled slowly, testing her limbs, her balance, the illusion's hold. "Yes," she whispered. From a long-forgotten chest, she retrieved her finest garment, a simple brown dress, loose and flowing, designed to suggest vulnerability while hiding movement. She slipped it over her form, adjusting it with practiced ease. At last, she turned toward the exit. The great doors of her tower groaned as they opened, spilling pale daylight into the darkness beyond. She stepped out, into a world that had forgotten her, into a hunt that might be her last. And behind her, the ancient structure, her home, her prison, her unknowable relic, stood silent, unaware that both hunter and prey were far older and far stranger than either could yet comprehend. The road stretched long and pale beneath a merciless sun, its surface hard-packed and broken by stone. Dust clung to it in a thin, choking veil that rose with every step Shaylin took, though she did not cough, did not sweat, did not falter. The heat pressed down like judgment. She did not feel it. Her bare feet, soft in appearance, unmarred by the illusion of youth, touched the earth without hesitation. Beneath the glamour, she knew what they truly were, old, cracked, and accustomed to harsher paths than this. She tilted her head slightly, studying the road. "Strange," she murmured. Once this path had been something else entirely, a winding, treacherous thing, roots breaking through the soil, mud swallowing the unwary, stones placed not by nature but by neglect. It had demanded effort, blood sometimes. Now it was convenient, flattened, cleared, tamed. Her lips curled faintly. "The world softens," she said to no one, "even as it rots." The distant creak of wood and iron reached her ears before the shape appeared on the horizon. A carriage, drawn by 2 horses, strong-backed and steady. The vehicle itself was crude but functional, aged timber reinforced with iron bands, wheels thick enough to endure long travel. It rattled as it approached, its rhythm uneven, like a heartbeat struggling to keep time. Shaylin slowed, watched, listened, then she smelled them. Old blood. Not fresh. No, this was layered, soaked into leather, dried into cloth, buried beneath sweat and grime. The scent of violence carried not as a moment, but as a history. Her eyes sharpened. Warriors then, or something close enough. As they neared, she saw them more clearly. Men in worn leather armor, blades at their hips, faces carved by suspicion and cruelty. Not soldiers, not quite mercenaries, predators. The carriage slowed. They had seen her, a lone woman on an empty road, clothed in little more than torn fabric that clung just enough to suggest vulnerability. Opportunity. One of the men leaned forward, squinting. Another muttered something low. A third laughed. But inside the carriage, a different sound, a weak voice. "Keep going," the wounded one rasped. "Leave her," he coughed, the sound wet and broken. No one listened. The carriage ground to a halt. Boots hit the dirt. One man, then another, then more, climbing down from the back like carrion birds gathering around fresh meat. They spread out, slow, deliberate, surrounding her. Shaylin did not move, did not tense, did not so much as shift her weight. She simply smiled. "Travelers," she said, her voice light, almost amused. "How fortunate." One of them stepped closer, eyes roaming without restraint. "You lost, girl?" "Perhaps," she replied, "or perhaps I've finally found something worth stopping for." A few of them chuckled. Another circled behind her. Shaylin turned slightly, gaze drifting past them to the carriage itself. Her curiosity in that moment was genuine. "How old is it?" she asked, gesturing faintly. "This wagon of yours?" They blinked. The question caught them off guard. "What?" "The construction," she continued as though they were discussing something mundane. "It's peculiar, efficient in its way. I've seen cruder things last longer." "You're a strange one," a man muttered. Her attention shifted to the horses. They snorted softly, restless but strong. Shaylin's expression softened. "They're beautiful," she said quietly. "It's been a long time since I've felt that kind of power beneath me." That earned a sharper reaction. A few grins spread. One man stepped closer, emboldened. "Has it now?" He reached for her. She slapped his hand away, not hard, but with enough precision to sting. "Patience," she said, smiling wider. "I haven't decided if you're worth the trouble." That did it. The tension snapped. They moved as one, hands grabbing, bodies lunging, confidence born of numbers and assumption. They forced her down into the dust. For a moment, it seemed exactly what they believed it to be. Then she laughed. It was not a frightened sound, not panicked, not desperate. It was delighted. The men hesitated, only for a heartbeat, but it was enough. "Why?" Shaylin whispered, her voice shifting, deepening, cracking at the edges like something vast pressing through something small. "Do they always make it so easy?" What followed was not chaos. It was inevitability. No flourish, no spectacle, just the quiet unraveling of lives that had already been forfeit the moment they chose her. Their confidence turned to confusion, confusion to fear, fear to pleading. Shaylin moved among them like a memory they could not escape. Her strikes were precise, almost delicate, yet final. Each man fell not just in body, but in something deeper, something drawn from them as she fed. When she drank, it was not blood alone, it was essence, a dim glow, unseen by mortal eyes, drawn from them in thin, trembling strands. Strength, experience, fragments of will and violence that had once defined them, all taken, all absorbed. Their voices broke, begging, promising, cursing. She listened. She always listened. It was her favorite part. When it ended, the road fell silent again. Only one remained, the wounded man. He had not moved, had not even tried. He sat half-collapsed against the side of the carriage, eyes wide, breath shallow and uneven. Shaylin approached him slowly. He recoiled, not physically, but inwardly. His body had nothing left to give. She watched, fascinated, as the dark strands of his hair began to pale at the roots. White, spreading, Fear so absolute it rewrote him. A faint scent reached her. She ignored it. Kneeling before him, she reached out and gently cupped his face in her hands. The gesture was tender, almost kind. "Who did this to you?" she asked softly. Her voice had changed again, warm, inviting. His trembling slowed, just slightly. He swallowed, forcing words past a throat that barely obeyed him. "A man," he whispered, "alone, on the road," his eyes unfocused as he remembered. "We thought, easy prey." A weak, broken laugh escaped him. "He didn't even try." Shaylin tilted her head. "He struck me," the man continued. "Just his hand, like it was nothing." His voice grew distant. "Felt like I'd been thrown through stone. No blade, no weapon, just that." He coughed again, wincing. "We couldn't stand, couldn't fight, just lay there, bleeding." His gaze returned to hers. "I got the worst of it." "How refreshing." Her fingers brushed his hair back, smoothing the whitening strands from his face. The touch calmed him further, confusion mixing with terror. "What is your name?" Shaylin smiled. Slow, genuine. He hesitated, then gave it. She nodded, as though committing it to memory. "Would you serve me?" she asked gently. "For a little while, until I find this man?" "Will you kill me?" he asked. "Like them?" His lips trembled. "Yes." Her laugh this time was soft, knowing. Tears filled his eyes. "I mean no disrespect," he said quickly. "They would have taken that chance, to live longer." He shook his head weakly. "But I've seen enough." His voice cracked. "Men who break you with a touch, women who—" He couldn't finish. "The world I knew," he whispered. "It's gone." He looked at her, something like peace settling in behind the fear. "I'm not strong enough for this one." For the first time, Shaylin's expression dimmed. Not anger, not hunger, something quieter. "Did he truly break you so completely?" she asked. "With a single strike?" The man nodded. Fear flickered again in his eyes. Shaylin withdrew her hands, stood. "Honesty," she said softly, "is a rare thing." She gestured toward the carriage. "Go." He blinked, confused. "Off," she clarified. He didn't argue, didn't question. He stumbled down, falling hard into the dirt before scrambling to turn back toward her, waiting for the end. Shaylin ignored him. She climbed into the carriage, studying the reins with open curiosity. Her fingers traced the worn leather, testing tension, observing how the horses shifted in response. Behind her, his voice broke. "Please," he called. I can't." He stopped. "Kill me," he managed. She did not turn. With a small flick of her wrists, awkward but effective, the carriage creaked forward. She left him there, alive, forgotten. As the road carried her onward, the stains upon her skin began to fade, not wiped away, but dissolving into fine motes that drifted off her like ash caught in an unseen wind. By the time she reached the next bend, she looked untouched, clean. Only the torn fabric remained as proof. Travelers passed her in time, farmers, merchants, families. Those without malice earned a soft smile, a wave. Coins, taken from the dead, found new hands among the living, beggars blinking in confusion as she pressed cold metal into their palms without a word. By dusk, she reached the town. It was small, crooked, built more from necessity than design. Smoke curled from chimneys that leaned too far, and the streets smelled faintly of rot beneath the attempt at order. She left the carriage near the edge and moved to the back, sorting through what remained. Supplies, trinkets, weapons of poor make. Eyes watched her. Whispers followed. "They know that wagon." Those men. Shaylin ignored them. She traded what she did not need for what she did. simple clothes, a short sword balanced well enough for appearances, and food she had no intention of truly needing. She asked questions, quietly, carefully. A man on the road, strong, unarmed. No one knew, or no one dared to say. Night drew her toward the place where secrets gathered, the tavern. It crouched at the corner of the main road like something diseased. Light spilled from its windows in sickly gold, accompanied by laughter too loud and music too eager. The door creaked as she entered, releasing a wave of heat, sweat, cheap ale, and something fouler beneath it all. Inside, bodies pressed close, men and women tangled in drink and distraction, tables scarred by knives and time, shadows clinging to corners where quieter transactions took place. It was alive, in the worst ways. Shaylin took a seat, ordered a drink she would barely touch, and watched. That was when she saw her, the barmaid, young, striking in a way untouched by the filth around her. Dark hair pulled back hastily, loose strands framing a face too soft for this place. Her movements were quick, practiced, but her eyes, they hadn't hardened yet. Shaylin stilled, a memory stirred. Another woman, long ago, a name that did not belong to this world, that twisted the tongue when spoken. She had tried once, failed, laughed with her about it. They had met by chance, stayed by choice. For a time, Shaylin had known something dangerously close to peace, until it was taken, brutally, pointlessly. She remembered the night she had called for something beyond the veil, and the thing that answered, Faithless, a voice like silk over broken glass, a presence that filled the world without ever fully appearing. Power, it had promised, revenge, endurance. For a price, she had asked. Service, it had replied. She had agreed, and in doing so stepped onto a path that led here, to bones, to hunger, to eternity. Another drink? The voice snapped her back. The barmaid stood beside her, hesitant. Shaylin blinked, then smiled. "Would you sit with me?" she asked. The girl shook her head quickly. I shouldn't." She stepped away. Shaylin watched her go. "Then another," she said quietly, placing coin on the table. The night wore on. Around her, voices rose and fell. War, dragons in the sky, sickness creeping through the poorer districts, and a mage, arrogant, unwelcome, powerful enough that none dared remove him. Threads, all of them threads. The barmaid returned. Shaylin tipped her generously. "You should be careful," she said. The girl nodded, offering a small, grateful smile before moving on. It lingered longer than it should have. Then, music. A man leapt onto a table, lute in hand, striking the strings with reckless joy. The tune was bright, wild, infectious. Even Shaylin felt it tug at something buried deep. He grinned and sang,
"Oh, the road is long, and the night is deep, and the wolves don't wait when the tired men sleep. But drink, my friends, for the dark takes hold, for blood runs thin and the grave runs cold. There's a blade for the bold and a coin for the sly, a kiss for the quick and a curse for the lie. So laugh while you can, neath the devil's gaze, for the dawn don't come for the damned these days."
The music took her, not gently. Nothing in Shaylin's existence was gentle, but wholly, like a current she had forgotten she could still drift upon. She rose from her seat, the weight of centuries loosening from her shoulders as the rhythm found its way into her bones. The crowd welcomed her without question. Hands reached, not to seize, but to spin, to guide, to pull her into the chaotic orbit of bodies and laughter. She moved easily among them. Men, women, it did not matter. She danced with all of them, her laughter rising above the din, bright and sharp, like shattered glass catching candlelight. Tankards sloshed, ale spilling across the floor, boots stomping in uneven cadence. Someone lifted her onto a table, and she did not resist. She thrived there, bare feet thudding against scarred wood, dress swaying, hair whipping as she spun. The room roared its approval, clapping, shouting, calling for more. For a moment, she was not a predator. She was simply alive. Her eyes found the barmaid. Across the room, half hidden behind the press of bodies, the girl watched her with something unguarded, admiration perhaps, or relief, seeing someone else abandon themselves so completely to the night. Shaylin smiled at her. The girl smiled back. That was enough. She leapt, backward, off the table, trusting. The crowd caught her, hands lifting, carrying her overhead as laughter broke like thunder beneath her. She allowed herself to be passed along, arms outstretched, the world spinning in flickers of torchlight and shadow. Then she slipped free, landed lightly, and made her way toward the barmaid. Their hands met. No hesitation, no words. They danced together, drawn into the same rhythm, moving in tandem as though they had done so 1,000 times before. Two strangers, bound for a fleeting moment by music, by drink, by something older and more fragile than either cared to name. Lost souls, finding each other at the edge of oblivion. The space between them shrank. Laughter softened. The world blurred. Shaylin leaned in, and the night shattered. A thunderous crack split the air. The music died instantly. The laughter choked into silence. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the second sound came, a distant roar, like something collapsing under its own fury. Outside, someone whispered. The crowd surged, spilling into the street. Guards pushed past, weapons drawn, faces tight with urgency. "Mage's house," someone shouted. "That's where it came from." Another voice cut through the confusion. That barbarian, he was heading there. Shaylin stilled. Her expression changed. Predator. She turned, but the barmaid was gone. For the briefest moment, uncertainty flickered through her. Stay or hunt. The decision came like instinct. She moved, fast, cutting through the dispersing crowd, following the guards as they ran through the narrow streets. The town revealed itself in flashes, leaning homes stitched together with rot and hope, lanterns swaying above muddy paths, faces pale with fear watching from doorways. This was not a place that endured chaos well, and yet chaos had come. By the time she arrived, the house was already half ruined. It looked ordinary at first glance, small, squat, unremarkable, except for the hole, a jagged wound torn through its side, splintered wood and shattered stone littering the ground. Smoke curled from within, thin and bitter. A man in robes clawed at the dirt nearby, screaming. His hands scraped uselessly at the ground, his movements frantic, animalistic, his eyes gone, not empty sockets, but something worse, ruined, destroyed. He saw nothing, and yet he felt everything. Guards rushed past Shaylin, buckets in hand, dousing the flames that licked hungrily at the structure. Two of them lifted the mage, trying to steady him. "What happened?" one demanded. The mage thrashed, voice cracking. "The caveman," he screamed. "The caveman did this. Kill him." "Caveman?" another guard snapped. "You mean the barbarian? The one with the—" "My books!" the mage shrieked, spittle flying. "He took my books, the bastard from the stars. He took them." The guards exchanged uneasy glances. Madness, they thought. Shock. The mage's head snapped suddenly toward the crowd, toward her. "You," he hissed. Shaylin froze. "You seek him too, foul creature," the mage spat. "I see you, even now. Use that wretched spider body and strike him down before he destroys you as well." A ripple of fear spread through those nearby. Eyes turned. Shaylin did not move. The mage laughed, broken and wild, raising his ruined face to the sky. "Curse you, Kriakk," he screamed. If immortality holds you, then I pray to Valthris, to Ralt, to Lucifer. Let it be an eternity of misery and pain." Before anyone could stop him, he tore free of the guards and staggered back into his burning home. Madness swallowed him. Shaylin said nothing. She watched, waited. The fire died under the guards' efforts, leaving only smoke and ruin. One by one they withdrew, dragging the curious and fearful with them. But she remained, and eventually the mage emerged again, blind, broken, alive. He groped his way through the wreckage until his hands found something long and metallic, a staff. He clutched it like salvation, then began to chant. Shaylin stepped forward. The staff snapped toward her. A violent gust of wind struck her like a hammer, hurling her backward through the doorway and into the street. She hit hard, rolling across stone before coming to a stop. For a moment, she lay still. Then she rose, slowly, dusting herself off. "No," she murmured, "nothing more to gain here." So she turned back toward the tavern. The walk felt longer, heavier. Kriakk, the name lingered. Immortal, if true. A slow smile touched her lips. Such a being could sustain her beyond decades, beyond centuries, a future, and perhaps, she glanced ahead toward the tavern's dim glow. Something else. Inside, the change was immediate. The energy had died. Where there had been laughter, there was now unease. Fewer patrons lingered, voices hushed, eyes darting toward the door as though expecting something worse to follow. The barmaid was nowhere in sight. Shaylin approached the bar. "The girl," she said. "Where is she?" The bartender shrugged. "Shaken. Took some time. She'll be back." Shaylin nodded, ordered a drink, sat, alone. Then, a scent, wet stone, moss, sweat, ancient and primal. Her head turned. In the far corner, half-shadowed, sat a man, a single tankard, a stack of books. He read, slowly, carefully, as though each word mattered. Shaylin felt it immediately. Power, raw, unrefined. Something that pressed against her senses like a storm waiting to break. She rose, walked to him, sat across from him. His gaze lifted, and for the first time in a very long time, Shaylin felt fear. Not crippling, not paralyzing, but real. "They don't belong to you," she said, her voice low. A pause, then, "Leave," he replied. Simple, final. "I've traveled far to find you," she said, leaning in slightly. His hand shifted, barely enough to notice, but it was already near the hilt of the club at his side. "Last chance," he said. The door opened, and the barmaid stepped inside. Shaylin turned. Their eyes met. The girl flushed, looked away, then back again. Shaylin smiled, and for a moment everything else fell away. Then the window shattered. An arrow screamed through the air. Kriakk leaned back with effortless precision, and the shot meant for him struck the barmaid instead. She staggered, then fell. Time fractured. Shaylin's breath caught as the girl was dragged aside and discarded like refuse, while guards flooded the room, weapons drawn and shouting. Shaylin screamed, rage, pure and immediate, and turned on Kriakk with her blade flashing. He moved faster. The book in his hand snapped shut and drove into her throat with brutal precision. Air vanished. Sound died. She hit the wall and crumpled beneath the surge of bodies rushing past as the fight erupted above her. Steel ringing, bone breaking, men screaming, blood falling like rain. She crawled through the chaos toward the barmaid. The girl's body trembled, her breath shallow, her eyes wide with fading light. Shaylin gathered her close. "You'll find me again," she whispered. "Across time, across stars, I will find you." The girl could not answer. Her gaze dimmed, then went still. Something inside Shaylin broke. She rose slowly, rage consuming what remained, ready to claim him, to take him, to end him, until a blade drove through her. She gasped and looked down. Long, heavy, perfectly placed. Kriakk stood before her, expression unchanged. He pushed her back and pinned her against a stone pillar, burying the blade deep. She grasped it, trying to pull it free, but it did not move. He had already turned away. More guards fell, one by one, until none remained. Silence followed. Kriakk looked back at her as her illusion flickered and youth peeled away, leaving only age. Her gaze remained fixed on the barmaid. He noticed. He walked to the body, lifted it, and placed it upright in a chair, leaving the girl's eyes open and facing Shaylin. "So cruel," she whispered. "Why?" He did not answer immediately. He packed the books, methodical and unhurried. Then he spoke. "Do you know what you are?" "You are a disease," he said. His voice was flat and certain. "I smelled you the moment I entered this town." He poured liquor and flung it across the room, over the body and over her. "Your kind spreads, feeds, breeds." A candle fell, and fire took hold. "You would have done the same to her." Shaylin shook her head weakly, but no words came. He stepped closer. "You are filth." Then he left. The flames climbed higher, and heat swallowed the room. Shaylin screamed. She did not scream in anger, but in grief. Outside, the townsfolk gathered as Kriakk emerged from the burning tavern, calm and unharmed. "The wizard poisoned your food," he said. "I ended him. That woman was a monster. I ended her." No one challenged him. No one moved. He loaded the books onto the carriage, climbed into the front seat and grabbed the reins, and rode away. Behind him, the fire consumed everything, and Shaylin's screams echoed into the night until dawn swallowed them whole.